Adam, the spiritual being. As it says in Genesis chapter 1:27, God created the pre-Adamic man, male and female, at the same time. They reproduced and multiplied until they filled the earth. Out of them, God chose the most prominent man and put a spirit into him. It did not choose a couple, but just one man. After receiving the Spirit from God, the man became Adam, a spiritual being. God chose one to breathe into because he was seeking a godly offspring through him. Jesus had to be born into the world so that he may fulfill the plan of God. In order for him to be born, a lineage was needed. However, Jesus could not come from a lineage of spiritless beings. Thus, God breathed a spirit into Adam. The pre-Adamic race had the same type of personality as Adam. They had morals, ethics, and culture. Yet, there was no next age to come for them because they did not possess a spirit. Because they are like the animals, they would just disappear at death. God chose one man from the pre-Adamic race. This chosen one was probably the most outstanding as a man. When God breathed into him, he became a spiritual being. This does not mean that Adam received a soul, an awareness, or a transformation in his personality when he received a spirit. He already had a personality as a rational man, yet his personality now became permanent. For the purpose of keeping the language simpler, the word pre-Adamic will be used for the spiritless people created before Adam. The word Adam or Adamic race will be used for the ones with the spirit. Spiritual death. Before becoming a spiritual being, the pre-Adamic race lived only by physical sustenance. As a spiritual being, Adam needed more than just bread. He needed the life-giving spirit. So God gave the command not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But Adam disobeyed that command and was separated from God. In other words, he was not able to receive God's word again. This is called spiritual death. Being separated from God's word means the absence of truth. Without truth, lies would completely reign. Without truth, life cannot exist. Death would only reign. Without life, no light can exist. Therefore, a spiritual being separated from God's word is also separated from God's glory. When Adam was separated from God's word, he lost communication with God. Though he was a spiritual being, he could only live according to the flesh. The pre-Adamic race lived according to the flesh because they did not have a spirit from the beginning. But Adam became like an animal because he lost his spiritual capacity to receive from God. Because Adam was a spiritual being, his personality would exist forever, though he dies. But he would exist forever in hell, completely separated from God's light. Man is comprised of a body, a soul, and a spirit. The body is the flesh, the soul is the personality, and the spirit is the permanent part of man. As stated before, the personality can only function with the body. In this sense, the body and soul can be considered as one. Spirit, soul, and body can be expressed in two different ways: spirit and body, or spirit and soul. In both cases, there is an understanding that the words soul and body are interchangeable in usage because they do not function apart from each other. Soul man, as a spiritual being, is recognized to be a permanent personality with a temporary body. Thus, Adam is an eternal personality, an eternal being with a personality.